Welcome to the Sailor Noob podcast, where a superfan and a noob talk about the original Sailor Moon episode by episode. I'm your host, Mikan Hana, joined by my co-host.
I'm the co-host, Caliban. I'm also the noob. Put your Hoshis in your Boshis. It's time to get down.
Yeah, we're a couple of magical people ready to moon cosmic power make up this episode. Today we are talking about episode number 126, Atarashiki Inochi, Unmei no Hoshiboshi Wakare no Toki in Japanese. A New Life, Parting of the Stars of Destiny, the English translation, and the English title, Second Chance.
Second chance.
Yes.
Second conclusion.
Yes.
Leading into a third conclusion. This is starting to feel like a Lord of the Rings movie.
That's a really valid point. Yeah.
There's like big confrontation last week.
Yes.
Usually that happens. We get a little outro speech from Luna or something and we're done, right?
Yeah.
But no, we're like, oh, now Frodo's coming back to the Shire. Oh, guess somebody's got a big pumpkin. All right.
I know, right.
Like, when is this going to wrap up?
Sam's going to ask Rosie to dance.
Yeah,
all
we
right.
got to close that up.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Are we closing
Did
all
you
the threads?
Get the impression that Rosie and Sam did not like each other?
I didn't get the impression
This
that...
has bothered me
for
21 years.
I didn't get the impression that they didn't like each other.
No, it's not 21 years because it's the first movie. So it's for 19 years.
I just didn't get the impression that she really liked him.
Plays Rosie Cotton.
Yeah.
Who has not a single line. So I don't know how it works in New Zealand, but no SAG card for you.
Yeah.
Although character has a name, so I don't know, maybe it works out. She doesn't say anything or do anything, so we don't know anything about her.
Right.
But also, literally, it makes it even worse. All she has to do is look excited when she's getting married to him.
Yes.
And so they get married. They have a very chaste kiss because it's a Hobbit wedding at the end of a movie about elves. But she's got this like
pained
grimace smile that and like not in the eyes at all.
No
like
smizing.
Dead eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got a smile in your eyes. Smizing.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I don't know the Instagram terms.
It's a Tyra Banks term.
That's all you needed to do.
Yeah.
If I was George Lucas, I would have fixed that.
Yeah.
I'd fix her face with CGI.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about the actress. She's probably a great actress. I'm just saying, like, that take, maybe everybody's tired. Maybe they did this weeks after they did, or years after they did everything else. But just make sure that we land that he's going to have a good life here.
That we're excited about each other.
He comes back. He's like, I'm finally home. And then puts the kid down. And they flip him off, and everybody goes inside, and he just like kind of stares at his plants, and he's like, "You'll never leave me."
Oh no, that's so sad.
You don't have legs, you can't.
That is the saddest
That's
existence.
what it feels like.
Oh my god!
And he's a pretty good actor, and he's got kind of a face too that's kind of like, does somebody fart?
So that's where you came up with this idea that maybe the actors like really didn't like each other.
But there's nothing else I could think of.
Yeah.
Because I know that they're probably both professionals.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, that happens sometimes. That does.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, sometimes you hear stories you hope you can't tell. You know? That's the thing.
Tony Curtis and Marilyn Monroe hated each other.
Sure.
On the set of Some Like It Hot.
Okay.
Tony Curtis famously said that kissing Marilyn Monroe is like kissing Hitler.
Great.
And first I'm like, you kissed Hitler?
Yeah.
But second, I'm like, well, then don't tell me that like she's not a good actress, and I mean he's Tony Curtis, but like because it's like fun, and they're like, oh, it's so romantic.
Right.
It's a movie about a guy gaslighting a lady twice.
Don't even
as
get
both
me
a
started.
Woman and as a yacht guy.
Yeah, I know.
All right, look,
I like the movie, but it's got problems.
It's not that I don't want to talk about this episode. It's just that like I don't feel like there's some good stuff here. But maybe, I don't know, maybe the best thing is just to get into it. But we can't.
Yes.
We can't, because first we have to read a delicious 5-star review that we've received on iTunes.
All right.
We've received a bunch of reviews recently, and I want to say, keep it coming. I love it. Good stuff. But this particular one is by user Myth Reindeer.
Okay.
There's your Lord of the Rings right there.
Yeah, right?
And it goes like this. I watched a bit of Sailor Moon on Toonami way back when, but I've since rediscovered it via the new English dub during the eternal pandemic. I also tried out a few other Sailor Moon podcasts, but I've become a dedicated Sailor Noob listener for the following reasons. A, they're not labeled. It is still a going concern and seems likely to complete its run through the series.
Okay.
B, the premise prevents most spoilers. I've not finished watching the series yet. C, the hosts are fun, engaging, and funny. They have a great and obviously long-running rapport. They're also around my age. It's nice to know other adults watch these cartoons. I forgot where we are. D, the recaps, commentary, and comparisons to other media are interesting. Like the Lord of the Rings thing.
You're welcome.
The discussion can wander a bit. No. But enjoyably so. E, the exploration of an element of Japanese culture is a great segment that obviously has a lot of effort behind it. We're enjoying, we're learning, we're having a good podcast time. If you want an episode recap plus interesting related info podcast about Sailor Moon, look no further.
Ah, that's awesome.
That's my blurb. That's it. We're going to put that on the poster.
Okay.
And our faces are completely covered by text.
Okay.
But people are going to understand what they're getting into here.
Right. This is important.
So thank you, Myth Reindeer.
Yes, thank you so much. I
am
really
Rudolph
appreciate
the White now. Meow. And it's like his nose is just like white instead of red. But yeah, thanks so much. We appreciate the 5-star reviews. And if you have been thinking about leaving us a review, but wondered whether or not we were going to read it on the show if it was 5 stars,
right?
Let me put your fears to rest. We're going to do that.
Yes.
No
yes,
matter
we are.
where you leave it, iTunes, I know they don't do reviews on Spotify, or maybe they do. I don't know. But wherever you listen to us, if you can leave a review, do it. We'd really appreciate it.
Well, let's part our stars of destiny and take a trip down this many-ending road and give me a breakdown of today's episode.
I hope there's just one ending ultimately.
Well, ultimately.
The many choose-your-own Sailor Moon adventure.
That sounds really exciting to me.
If you transform into Sailor Moon, turn to page 14. If you eat 3 bowls of curry in one sitting, turn to page 69. Nice. We begin where we ended last episode with Super Sailor Moon entering the Dark Sphere to join the battle against Pharaoh 90. As the battle is won, the sphere dissipates, and we once again see a kaleidoscope of butterflies coalesce into Super Sailor Moon and the small baby that she holds in her arms. It's a butterfly-based teleportation power. I think there is an X-Man like that, but anyway. Sailor Moon collapses to her knees, and the outer Senshi rush to her side. But when the inner Senshi arrive, Uranus, Neptune, and the mysterious baby have vanished.
Yep.
Not as butterflies. Just normal vanish. How they do it. Back at Mamoru's apartment, a new day has dawned, and Chibiusa opens her eyes to see Usagi, Mamoru, and the girls waiting for her to awake. Chibi sits up and says, "Where's Hotaru?" And Usagi and Mamoru are like, they don't know what to say. Chibi fears the worst has happened, but she says, "It can't be. She came to me in a dream and thanked me." And Mamoru tells her, "I'm sure she's still alive." And Minako says, "Yeah, Sailor Moon risked her life to save her life." And Chibi says, "I won't cry anymore." That was quick.
They say 7 minutes heals all wounds.
I mean, Hallmark doesn't make a "sorry your best friend was devolved into a baby and adopted by a pair of space lesbians" card. So what do you really say?
Oh, no, it doesn't.
Like Chibi says, Usagi did her bit. And like, pats her hand kind of condescendingly.
Good point.
She did a good job. I mean, she's 6. I'm not sure how like self-consciously bitchy she's capable of being.
Right.
I don't have any kids. Parents, let us know. How bitchy are your 6-year-olds?
She can be bitchy, but is this self? Yeah.
Stubs out a candy cigarette. "Yeah, you did a great job. Thanks." Later, some other morning maybe, at the Sakino household, 3 young girls are standing on the sidewalk. 3 young toughs. And they yell up, "Chibiusa!" And Chibi comes running out. They're going to catch the bus. I'm assuming it's the school bus or like a field trip bus, but who knows? Day trip to Hakone. Who's going with me?
Yes.
I can do it myself. And Usagi watches her go with trepidation and thinks, she's trying to be strong, but she's worried about Hotaru. Artemis and Luna are there as well, and Artie says, she's being strong for you. We don't know where Hotaru or Pluto are, but Mina and Makoto are doing all they can to find them. And Usagi says, I know I felt Hotaru. I'm sure we'll see her again. On the bus, the kids are having fun, but Chibi sits alone, thinking about Hotaru, and she says, I'm sure we'll meet again. She looks out of the bus window, and she happens to see the $1 million car. She sees that 2000 GT parked in front of a cafe. We zoom into that cafe, and we see Haruka and Michiru seated by the window. In Michiru's arms is a dark-haired, violet-eyed baby girl feeding from a bottle. And Haruka says, "You look like the picture of a mother." And Michiru says, "It might be nice to be a family of 3. This is this was the end game. This is it. Lesbian moms. This was it.
Oh my God.
Think about everything that Deke, no, it's Clover Way at this point, right?
Yeah.
Cartoon Network, let's say, stole from us.
Yeah.
You could have showed kids of the aughts a happy same-sex couple that adopted a child. Think of that quote-unquote non-traditional family that they could have been exposed to, and instead, cousins.
Yeah.
It seems like even more of a crime now.
It
at
does.
This point.
And it happens a little bit differently in the manga, but that's, I don't want to spoil that for you.
Spoilers. What a missed opportunity.
Yes.
What a waste.
I agree.
And besides, she's a hard-driving racer with a shady past, and she's a slightly psychic violin virtuoso, and together they'll be burping the Antichrist.
Oh.
It's 2 ladies and also a smaller lady. At this, Haruka is like, checks her watch. We should get out of here. And Michiru says, "This is goodbye, little baby." And we cut to I'm going to say that from now on, whenever I leave a room. "This is goodbye, little baby." And we cut to the 2000 GT on the highway, Haruka at the wheel, and Hotaru in Michiru's arms. And as they drive, we see flashes of Haruka and Michiru's first meeting, their first Yoma fight, the first moment they became sailor soldiers, and the moments that they lost their hearts to the Deathbusters as the car races into the distance. We cut to Miharadai General Hospital. Miharadai is a town outside of Tokyo.
Okay.
Probably far enough to be like, this is kind of a ways out.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
And the hospital bustles as the work of healing goes on. Down a hallway comes a nurse accompanied by Michiru, the baby in the nurse's arms. They stop at a room, and inside is a bandaged man in a wheelchair. The nurse says, "You have a visitor, Mr. Tomoe." She doesn't say it like that, but...
Yeah,
and we
thank
see
goodness.
Soichi Tomoe wheel around in his chair
Yeah.
like Dr. Strangelove. And I don't think they're doing a thing, but... and Michiru carries his baby daughter to him and places her in his arms. The baby wakes up and stares happily into her father's face as a voice says, "His amnesia is quite profound. He's suffered severe psychological trauma, but his recovery is going well." We see a doctor consulting a chart while talking to Haruka, and we cut outside to the hospital grounds where we see Tomoe wheeling around with his daughter in his lap as she giggles. From behind a tree, not in it though, Haruka and Michiru watch them pass. That'd be weird if they were in it, though.
Yeah.
Classic Sailor Moon-esque. And Michiru says, "Why do I feel so sad?" But Haruka says, "Come on, before we leave, there's one more thing we have to do." At the park! And this is a big park, okay?
Mm-hmm.
This isn't like a couple trees and a fountain. There's like all kinds of stuff to do. There's like zip lines. This is an activity center. Remember Chutes and Ladders?
A real place or like the board game?
No, a real place.
No, I don't remember a real place called Chutes and
I
Ladders.
think they shut Chutes and Ladders was a big play area at a big park near us.
Okay.
Which it's not too much of a difference in our age, but maybe it got shut down because that kid got paralyzed before you would have been going there.
Oh no, that's horrible.
One of the big features was they had like a 50-foot slide. I'm not kidding. It was like 50 feet long, and we used to smuggle. We would take wax paper up there to the top of the slide and then ride the wax paper down.
Oh my God.
And you just, first couple times, it's not much, but then the thing gets all waxed. And so you just shoot out of that. Kids would just drive grooves in the stones, as they came out of that thing. And then you come home and the back of your pants are just like shiny, solid. It's like, what was going on?
Why are your pants
Were
laminated?
You surfing?
Yeah, right.
Anyway, everybody's having fun, and Chibi is cruising along on a trail bike. Wait, this kid can ride a trail bike? Like a mountain bike?
Apparently she can.
Are these like mini bikes? Her feet couldn't reach the pedals of a Cannondale.
Maybe they're mini bikes. Yeah.
I don't know that much about bikes. Her friends, I'm not a bike person. I don't want anybody to believe that about me.
We don't want any letters.
No. Her friends pull up alongside her and say, "Hey, Chibi, why aren't you having fun?" But Chibi says, No, I am. Genki. But it's like forced Genki?
It is.
You don't want forced Genki.
We're all gonna have so much fucking fun we'll need plastic surgery to remove our goddamn smiles.
The bikes pick up speed, but Chibi's hat flies off, and she says, "Go ahead, I'll catch up to you." And she runs up a hill to catch her wayward headgear. But when she reaches the top of the hill, she sees a vision of a woman surrounded by purple light, holding a staff. And clocks, lots of clocks. You know, someone else climbed up a mountain and saw a vision.
Who was that?
The apostles.
Oh, okay.
No, really. Well, I mean, like, mosaic comparisons aside, seeing things on top of a mountain, there's an account in the Gospels of how Peter and, I don't know, maybe like a couple of the other ones, somebody, went up to the top of a mountain and Jesus was transfigured.
Okay.
Which is to say, he went from like, you know, like the Lord of the Rings films. It's all Lord of the Rings now on this show.
Yeah, it is.
But like, sometimes the elves are normal, but then sometimes you're seeing them with magic eyes and they're in like flowy robes and they're all lit up.
Glowy and it's like slow motion.
Yeah, they went from like, you know, this guy's like a 33-year-old, you know, Jewish carpenter dude to like, whoa, this guy's. And then apparently like Moses and Elijah showed up. We've talked about them before, and conversed with him about the law and the prophets and all this stuff.
Okay.
And so the disciples are like, what? I mean, like, he had some good ideas, but what?
What is this business?
Yeah. And so once he was done, you know, and the light fades and they go back to town, he's like, don't tell anybody about this.
Okay.
And they're like, oh, okay.
But it's
sure.
so cool.
I'll put that under my hat.
Yeah, right.
Do we have hats? Have we invented hats? Well, speaking of hats, Chibi does not find hers, but she sees this image of Pooh.
Yes.
Look out for Pooh in the park. Sailor Pluto says to Chibi, "Be not afraid." No, she says, different story. She says, "You did very well. I wish I could give you a hug, but I no longer exist in this world." Chibi says, "Don't leave, Pooh. Hotaru's gone. I'm all alone now." But Pluto says, "No, you have wonderful friends. And Sailor Saturn is... ...
Mm-hmm.
Chibi says, Is what? Is she alive? Is she a dog? What is she?
Yeah.
I think Chibi's about to find out where babies come from.
Oh my God.
Well, when a gothy tween gets possessed by an extra-dimensional demon... No, she says, 2 personalities, Sailor Saturn and Mistress Nine, shared Hotaru's body. But with Sailor Moon's help, Hotaru destroyed Mistress Nine. She's been reborn into this world, and she's trying to start a new life. And at this, the image of Pluto begins to flare and then fade. And she says, "We will surely meet again. Be well, my small lady." And she disappears, leaving Chibi alone. But not totally alone. As a voice says, "Excuse me, is this yours?" And we see Professor Tomoe in his wheelchair with Hotaru holding Chibi's hat. Chibi runs down to grab it and realizes, "You're Hotaru's father?" And then she sees the dark-haired baby in his arms and she realizes, that is where babies come from. As Tomoe hands her hat back to her, baby Hotaru starts to reach out towards Chibi and Tomoe says, "Oh, she likes you." Chibi reaches out her hand and lets baby Hotaru grab it. And Tomoe says, "Isn't she cute? Her name is Hotaru." And Chibi remembers Pluto's words about Hotaru beginning a new life. A nurse calls Professor Tomoe away, and as she turns to leave, Chibi says, "Hey, keep her healthy." Yeah, okay, thanks, kid. Sure.
Take care of her.
Yeah, good idea. They wave goodbye, and Chibi waves too, saying, "I'm happy for you, Hotaru. We'll see each other again. Bye-bye for now." Back at the site of the ruined Mugen Academy, Ami and Minako stand at the edge of the crater where the school once stood. Ami's using her Robocop computer to analyze the site, and she determines that all traces of this alternate dimension have disappeared. Rei and Makoto arrive and tell them that they haven't found anything either. Usagi's also there, sitting glumly, and Rei says, "Why are you sitting glumly? You did everything you could." But Usagi is still unsettled. Also searching the rubble are Luna and Artemis, and Artie catches sight of the yellow 2000 GT.
Mm-hmm.
We hear the sound of a violin playing. Activate anime intro. And we see Michiru and Haruka sitting atop a pillar amongst the rubble. Anime intro achieved. Usagi runs towards them, but Haruka throws a rock at her and says, "Stay back, Sailor Moon." The violin music stops, and the pair disappear, and then reappear in front of her. Michiru says, "Your naivety is disgraceful." And Haruka says, yeah, the world was saved, but we can't forgive you. You protected the guardian of destruction who nearly destroyed the planet. Usagi sinks to her knees in disbelief as Michiru and Haruka say, you aren't qualified to be the queen of the future. Whoa!
I know.
So it's regicide then. Usagi just stares at them blankly as her friends say, hey, what the hell? Were you here for the last couple episodes?
Yeah.
And Makoto runs forward saying, looks like they're the hardheads we always took them for. Should we teach them a lesson? As if in answer, Michiru just raises her sailor rod, like, bring it on.
Mm-hmm.
And Haruka does the same, and the two transform into sailors Uranus and Neptune. Not to be outdone, the 4 inner senshi transform as well, but Usagi yells, don't! Too late! The transformed sailors stare down the outers as Venus says, we can't forgive you for criticizing Usagi. Mercury says, Sailor Moon fought for her life. But behind them, Usagi cries, no, don't! I don't want you to fight! Uranus looks at her askance and says, naive to the core. Does she know the definition of that word?
I don't know that she
You
does.
keep using the word. I don't think it means what you think it means.
Her girlfriend has a mirror. Maybe she should try looking into it. Boom, roasted. Jupiter looks back to Usagi and says, doesn't it make you angry to hear those things? But Usagi says, I'm not angry because it's true. I'm a crybaby and I'm naive, but I don't feel like I was wrong. She may have been the guardian of destruction, but she was a senshi like us. Haruka, Michiru, remove your transformations. You too, Sailor Senshi. Luna and Artie are watching this like...
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
But Uranus only says, if you want us to remove our transformations, make us. And Neptune says, if you don't, we'll be enemies forever. And I should just say, for people like me, remove your transformations means, like, don't be the sailor soldiers anymore.
Yeah. Or I think, like...
Take off the mask.
Yeah, right.
This is like put on the suit. This is like take off the suit.
Right. But I mean, like, at least for, like, right now. Not, like, ever.
No,
but,
no, no.
like,
Yeah.
Yeah, like, we're not fighting
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah, put your badge and rod on my desk.
That's right.
You wrecked 20 cars. You're a loose cannon. Usagi says, all right. And as the senshi look towards her, she says, don't help me. This is my duty. And she becomes Sailor Moon. Uranus says, so the star appears at last. Bitchy. Get a better agent if you don't like it.
Yeah, I know.
And
right?
Neptune says, we won't hold back. And we get a deep submerge that blasts Sailor Moon back onto the ground. The senshi immediately run to help her, but a red rose sinks into the ruined concrete of the demolition site. We pan up to a ruined second floor to see that Tuxedo Mask is here to stop you from helping her. He says, let her go. Let her go. Now, he says, sometimes there has to be a violent clash before an understanding can be reached. She doesn't need your help. I didn't know this was Tuxedo Subtext.
I know.
Actually, it's probably always been Tuxedo Subtext.
Yeah,
that's
probably.
That's the new meme. It's like, I've delivered the subtext.
And I'm gone.
You didn't do anything else. Sailor Moon struggles to her feet, and Uranus says, what? Aren't you going to cry? And Neptune says, cry, baby princess. And I actually said holy out loud at this moment, which I'm not proud of. And Usagi, it's not Sailor Moon, let's face it. This is Usagi, no matter what she's wearing. Usagi says, remove your transformations. World shaking is the Outer's answer to this demand. But this time, Sailor Moon leaps out of the way of the blast. As Uranus scans desperately to find her enemy, Sailor Moon drops down behind her and yells, behind you! No! That's not how you get the drop on somebody, Sailor Moon. But it is how Sailor Moon does it. And as Uranus launches a flurry of kicks in Sailor Moon's direction, Sailor Moon dodges them in her own particular way as well. Uranus goes into a handstand and launches a double kick at Sailor Moon, catching her in the chest, and Usagi reels as the assault continues. She says, stop this already! And as she leaps away from her opponent, she's grabbed from behind by Sailor Neptune. That's how you do it, Usagi. No, hey, I'm gonna grab you. Neptune says, quite impressive, as she drives Usagi to her knees in a hammerlock. Uranus says, it's over, Sailor Moon, and she runs towards our downed heroine, and the implication...
Because of the implication.
...here is that she's going to kick a field goal with Usagi's face. That's what they're saying here, right?
Yes,
we keep looking at her legs
absolutely.
coming at her, and it's like, oh, she's going to put a boot in her mouth. Sailor Moon remains motionless, and Uranus sprints towards her, but as Uranus leaps in for the kill, Sailor Moon begins to glow, and Neptune is forced away from her as Moon dodges quickly to the side, and the two outer senshi collide in a tangle of limbs. And I did yell, "F*** you," at the screen on this one, and I'm not sorry about it. You got Lucy, bitch! Took the football away!
Right.
Sailor Moon stands over Uranus and Neptune, ready for more, but the outer senshi rise and immediately go down on one knee to her. Neptune says, "Just as we expected of you, princess, or should I say, future Neo-Queen Serenity. You are my cousin, but she is my queen." Uranus says, "You showed us your power at the end." And Usagi says, "What do you mean, end?" Neptune says, "We finished what we came here to do." And Uranus says, "We found the true Messiah, and the world was saved. Our work here is done." Sailor Moon says, "The true Messiah? Who is she?" And the two outers get up like,
You serious? I just told you that a moment ago.
Neptune sighs and says, "She even turned the Guardian of Destruction into a friend." And as they turn to leave, the inner senshi rush to join their leader. As they walk away, Uranus says, "It's been a tough battle since we arrived, hasn't it?" And Neptune says, "But our efforts paid off." And Uranus says, "You know, Sailor Saturn wasn't the only one saved by the Messiah. No, there were two others. Two beautiful and talented cousins by the name of Michiru and Haruka." Should we thank her? They do not,
I know!
by the way. Which is like, is this a bit from Desperado? Where he's like,
Did I thank you? No. I will.
far behind them, Sailor Moon calls out, "Wait! Tell us! Is Hotaru alive?" Uranus looks back and says, "You'll see her again one day." And Sailor Moon says, "She is alive." It's a nice moment, but I don't know, maybe she's in heaven and you'll see her then. Like you'll see her a long time from now.
I mean, you could
But,
interpret it many different ways.
yeah.
Yeah.
We'll meet Grandpa again one day. But I think you've got the right idea.
Yes.
As the episode ends, we see Chibi getting off the bus from her day trip and running into the arms of Mamoru, surrounded by Usagi and her friends. And we see the 2000 GT one last time, Haruka at the wheel and Michiru at her side as they drive off into the sunset.
Mm-hmm.
She beat them so bad they had to leave town. Loser leaves town match.
There you go. Yeah. I do like that they ran into each other. That was a great moment.
It's not, yeah. Well, you know, look, she's gonna kick. You're out of line, soldier. She's gonna kick their asses in the way that a commander should, but she's gonna do it through her own idiom.
Yes.
Like warning her that she's behind her, and also causing them to fall down in a funny way.
Right.
Instead of just like burn, like beating their dicks into the dirt.
Right.
Yeah. My heart is very full.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like when you feel like you don't, like I'm not going to cry or something, but I just feel full of emotions. And
there's a lot of emotions that come up.
Replete with thoughtfulness.
Yeah.
Here at what I presume will be the last that we'll see of these two for a while. And so, yeah, it's hard to know how to feel here in Peter Jackson's Sailor Moon of the Rings. Where there's going to be 3 or 4 endings this season as we are saying goodbye to people. But yeah, satisfying though.
It is satisfying. It's satisfying to see them go off into the sunset. I have to say, though, like the one thing that really bugs me about this episode is that, like, Michiru and Haruka are so hard-headed that they're like, we have to fight you. We must fight you to see your strength because you haven't shown us your strength, and we need to know that you're the Messiah.
Yeah.
You know?
It's an anime thing.
It is, but it's like, hasn't she proven herself to you time and time again this entire season? I'm kind of sick of it. I'm kind of just like, really?
I guess. I mean, it's if you're going to send them off, we're speaking about people acting in their own idioms.
Yes.
And this is, if we're going to send them off in their own style, this is how you do it.
I
would agree that, like, over the course, I mean, look what she just did. And then also, in the junkyard fight and like of the course of all these interactions they've had with her, they must see the future Usagi in her. And so, having this rite of passage that they decide, I don't know, maybe it could be like, future Usagi says, like, really kick my ass, like, when you go back in time. Do you know what I mean? Like, it could be a situation like that. But yeah, if we're going to say goodbye to these two one last time, it's old time Sailor Moon-esque. We give us a little nostalgic slice of what it was like when they first showed up, and yet show that they are still super committed to this. They are satisfied because they've been, tossed like the sea this whole time in their characters, and seeing they're satisfied with each other. They're satisfied with the acquaintances they've made in this time, with the future versions of these people that they will know, eventually. I think it works.
I think that, though, it's important, like, they didn't go back in time, right? They were also reborn. But I
have no idea.
They were also reborn, and
I have no idea. If you don't know, or you're telling me that's not what it is,
I'm telling you they were also reborn.
Okay, well, spoilers, first of all. You're into negative stickers now.
Hey!
That's really why she doesn't have any stickers, is because she keeps losing them because she keeps spoiling stuff.
It's not a spoiler.
But then everything that I said doesn't work because they don't know Neo Queen Serenity at all.
No.
So did Pluto tell them tales about Neo Queen? One time
she could have. Yeah.
She burped the entire alphabet. It was amazing. I guess. So you might be telling me the truth, but the truth makes less sense than what I just said.
Okay.
Here's something that doesn't make sense. We're about 75% of the way through. Look,
all right.
I don't know how numbers work. Okay.
I don't know, man.
If there was, I don't know how it works. But I'm going to own up to it.
Yeah.
We're not 75% of the way through.
Not quite.
We're more like 65 or something like that. Don't at me. I don't care. But I'm going to own up to it and not write it into the mythology of this show. The way that Stephen King did when he thought that Co-op City was in Brooklyn, and he didn't realize until 2 or 3 books into the Dark Tower series, I'd be mad at my editor, that Co-op City is in the Bronx. But luckily, his entire series is about like a multiverse. Hopefully not just because he got that wrong.
Yeah,
so
really.
in his multiverse, the Co-op City is in Brooklyn and not the Bronx. And it's like, you can't really like communicate a wanking gesture on a podcast unless you describe it. But that's what I'm doing right now.
Right.
But I'm not going to do that.
No.
I was wrong. It won't be till 150 when we're nearing the end of Super S.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah. Which is a ways away still. But that's okay. I guess you could look at it another way, that like we've got more to go, more to cover.
Yeah. Again, describing a wanking gesture.
Okay.
At what you just said.
Great.
Here's, speaking of endings, we're at kind of a singularity.
How so?
A singularity, the way that I'm using it is a point past which we don't understand. We can't describe what's going to happen. I mean, I can describe that they're going to fight funny looking ladies, who are monsters.
Of course.
But like the first season, sure, we didn't know how things would play out if they played out a second time, but it was literally returning to a status quo.
Mm-hmm. Right.
She's 14 years old, bit of a crybaby.
Right.
We understood that first episode. She tells us. Sailor Moon R, it's more a restoration of, there's Chibi and there's aliens, but it's more of a restoration of, the life that we understand. Mm-hmm. Maybe post the addition of the existence of Chibi, but it's like Mamo says, I can't be with you.
Right.
And then it's like, I gotta get Mamo back.
Right.
So once again, we're kind of returning, renewing that. This has been, by that criteria that I just created right now, the first evolution of the premise in the story, I think. This is the first time that I don't really know what's going to happen next. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think I know what you're saying. Yeah, because it's like, well, where do we go from here? That sort of thing. I think that is something that Naoko struggled with as well.
I don't think it's a struggle. I think it's a good place to be.
Well, it is a good place to be. I think.
In fact, my most frustrating, aspect of the show or the series so far was them resetting time like the first season never happened.
Yeah, I know.
And I mean, it did, but also, and I think audiences are getting more comfortable with the idea of like time loops and multiverses and things like that. But this is like the early 90s and it's a kid's show. So you can just say that happens. But I have a lot of questions about what actually happened.
The logistics.
But the answers are, it doesn't really matter. We just wanted to put the characters back, take them back a peg,
right,
to lose that development because we needed a show. We needed a girl struggling in relationships and in school and all this. And I think this is the first, maybe at the end of our little, but I think for me, this is the first time that they're saying, no, we're planning it here. We're not going to go backwards anymore. Like, she is older. She has grown. We didn't go through the maiden's policy for nothing.
Right.
And here at the end of Tuxedo Mirage, we're saying they are more than they were before.
Right. And she has learned from her mistakes, and
even Chibi.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Even a 6-year-old child is more mature, has seen some stuff, man. Like, she is, she has developed as well. Mm-hmm. Whereas I don't think that was as true in the first 2 seasons.
No, I think that is true. And so if you remember at the beginning of the season, Chibiusa is sent back to make friends, and
she gets her friend killed.
Yeah, okay. but
screw you, friend.
It's mainly because this happened already, right? And we've got to make sure it happens again, and so she's got to be there to be friends with Hotaru, and be able to be the one or one of the reasons why Hotaru comes back, and she's able to defeat Mistress 9. Because if she's not there, that's not going to happen, because Hotaru has had a really pretty awful life in a lot of ways since like her mom died in the accident. So she's been pretty lonely.
Well, she was possessed by a demon for, more than
long
half
time.
Of her life, probably.
Yeah.
So, getting another shot at it, I guess, is a good thing. It reminds me of, and I think, once again, you ready for Cal's mythology corner?
Yes.
It reminds me of, her patron god or planet of Saturn, which is a god of, renewal.
Yes, rebirth.
The phoenix there's phoenixes in a lot of cultures, but it's usually like, pinned on the Greeks. And so the idea of something, eternally renewing, dying and returning. There's another person who died. No, you get it. But and having that there,
was he a baby though?
Right, and for a little while. And so having that her be Saturn, and that's that idea is in the idea of the Roman Saturn, who was a god of the harvest, something that would happen every year. Crops would grow and die.
Right.
It's, what do we have now? The old man and the baby, the scythe.
Right.
The guy's got a scythe.
Yeah.
The old man New Year or whatever it is. All that's part of that, the idea of the return of Saturn, if you want to get...
Yeah.
I'll allow it. I'll let you get astrological a little bit if you want. That was very important to them. In Egyptian mythology, Osiris was... they don't map perfectly, but Osiris was their idea of what Saturn would have been, because he was a god of the harvest and of the rising and lowering of the Nile.
Okay, sure.
Which was very important to their agriculture.
Yeah, definitely.
And Osiris is like kind of an undead god, and he's kind of creepy and ooky spooky. Like our little goth chick.
Yes. Yeah, I think, so there's been like some discussion of like, does like Pluto and Saturn, did Nako get their powers like mixed up or whatever? Because Pluto is often associated with the underworld and death and everything too. And I think Saturn can be associated with time, but like... It
is.
Yeah.
Chiefly.
So...
We just talked about that.
Right. So there has been like speculation as to why, and Tuxedo Unmasked has a good article about it, but well, he does. One of the things that like he brings up, you have to understand that Pluto, she didn't know how long the manga was going to run. She didn't know how many senshi she was going to necessarily have. And like, so
her mythology book only went up to a certain chapter.
Right. So she wanted somebody for time, right? And she picked Pluto. I don't know why she picked Pluto, but she did. So then she had to keep going with that, you know?
Yeah. Well, I mean, if she wanted to pull a Stephen King and in another universe,
sure,
Sailor Pluto was the creepy one and Sailor Saturn was the time one. I mean, yeah, okay, I guess that would work, but I guess it doesn't really matter what their names are.
It doesn't really matter.
And if we still I don't know, and I swear to God, if you ruin it, I will make you into stickers. But I don't know if we'll ever see Pluto again. But since Saturn is the one who metaphorically dies and is reborn, it works that she's Saturn. There is no thing with that in Pluto, unless we go with we talked about the Persephone myth, I suppose. But
right.
So it works.
I think it works.
I think if they swapped, I suppose that would satisfy my OCD. But her being Saturn, that totally works.
I agree, and plus Pluto has the power Dead Scream, so there you go.
Which I mean, how's that time? I think we pointed that out before.
It's not.
What was she going to time blast or something like that? Yeah.
So but that's okay.
At Cinema Recall, we want to present to you the finest in film analysis.
Yeah, like action and gore and sex.
We will look at classics by Kubrick, Lynch, Godard, De Palma, and Coppola.
I don't know who the that is, but I'm looking at classic bodies of Christina Hendricks, Keanu Reeves, Salma Hayek, Ryan Reynolds.
We are a serious show for film lovers who enjoy indie foreign films, art house gems, and classic black and white features.
Well, I enjoy big budget blockbusters with great action and sexy people. Maybe our podcast can celebrate all aspects of films, like people who feel like your weird way and like people who feel like my weird way can like get together, man.
They can?
Yeah.
Huh. I like that.
Cinema Recall is available everywhere you find great podcasts. Follow them on Facebook and Instagram under Cinema Recall Podcast and on Twitter at cinema_recall.
Today for Kyoro Kyoro Miru, or Curiously Looking Around, where we talk about elements of Japanese culture, we are continuing our series on the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse, and today we're talking about conquest, specifically the conquest of Ryukyu Islands by Imperial Japan in the 16th century.
Conquest is like the George Harrison of the Four Horsemen.
Is that right?
Yeah, everybody kind of forgets about him sometimes, but like he's pretty cool. Like when you get older, that's your favorite.
That's your favorite
That's
horseman?
your favorite horseman.
Oh, okay. All right.
Different than war.
Yes.
Not war.
Not the same.
War.
Not the same.
The process by which conquest happens.
Yes.
Somehow war, conquest, they don't even live near each other.
No.
Yeah, different cities.
Yeah. Also not the same as death, which sometimes happens in war and conquest.
Yes.
Just saying, you guys are kind of really similar.
Ironically, they meet for lunch. They don't invite famine.
That guy is the worst.
You don't want that guy. Nah.
No.
He's better off.
He talks the entire time.
Yeah, they never pick up the check.
Yeah, and I mean, just like sings all the time too. Just like really off tune and
yeah,
like.
I would like to have a word with my mother, who would not let me sing at the table. And
Aww.
It's like, if she could have seen into the future, you better hope I'd never stop singing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, singing has taken me everywhere.
That's right. The Ryukyu Kingdom was a kingdom in the Ryukyu Islands from 1429 to 1879. It was ruled as a tributary state, or in other words, it was a vassal state of Imperial Ming China by the Ryukyuan monarchy, who unified Okinawan Island to end the Sanzen period and extended the kingdom to Amami Islands and Sakashima Islands.
So this is... Where are we here? This is an archipelago.
Yes.
Of islands.
Yes.
To the south of Japan.
It is south
the
of
little
Japan.
bits, not the big ones, the little bits.
They are the little bits. It's south of Kyushu, and it runs. It goes. It curves.
East of Java.
And well, it's south of Kyushu, and then it goes until like you hit Taiwan almost. So it's actually pretty long.
Right, and those islands have been disputed for hundreds, thousands of years.
There has been some fight over them.
Because China's like, well, it's pretty close to us.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. The Ryukyu Kingdom is present-day Okinawa Prefecture. So just to give everybody more of an idea, so when we say Okinawa, it's part of what was previously Ryukyu Kingdom. Today we're going to take a look at how that happened, but first a brief history about the Ryukyu Kingdom. So many of these islands are actually uninhabitable, and but they're still disputed. You know, people still want them and everything.
No nightlife.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
But they're basically the Ryukyu Kingdom. They developed their own culture and their own language that was distinct from Japanese, and many people who live in Okinawa today and in Okinawa Prefecture do not consider themselves Japanese. First, they consider themselves to be from whatever island they're from. And
are they ethnically Japanese?
What
do I mean by that?
Yeah, what do you mean by that, I guess?
Oh, I thought you were going to answer that. I mean, the fact that like these islands are, inhabited by indigenous people who, because of their isolation, don't necessarily share genetics with the Japanese people. So you've got, like, in the north, you've got the Ainu. And the Ainu were all over Japan in early Japan, but mostly in the north.
Yes.
And so they are like, to a normal person, they probably just look Japanese, but they are, separate. And it's been a long time. They were conquered as well, and it's been a long time trying to get them rights and, like, restitution for their kind of like Japan's Native Americans, if that puts them in perspective.
Right.
But like, the Nanban peoples of this era in southern China and in the South, China Sea Islands have had this for a long time because they're so remote. Like during the Three Kingdoms, there were chapters of the Three Kingdoms about how, all right, we got like Shu and Wei, everybody locked down. So now we're going to try to like go to these islands because we heard that there's good stuff over there.
Right. But
they get over there and they're like, there's nothing here.
Right.
There's no nightlife.
Right. There's just rocks. Yeah. Right.
And so they're like, forget about this. And so the people are like, that was weird.
Well,
that guy had a cool beard though.
I think so. From what I have read and the videos I've watched, they do share some genetic characteristics with the early Japanese and everything. And I think that a lot of people today from the rest of Japan would consider them to be Japanese, but I think that
legally that the Japanese don't recognize them as being different ethnically.
No, I don't think that
just
they
like,
do.
You're Japanese.
Yeah, I think.
Well, actually, no, you're Japanese.
No, you're Japanese. Right, exactly. But I think that they do often feel separate, and I think that there is, they were their own kingdom, for many years.
Yeah.
So
we're on
I
the
think
map.
that's completely
Look
understandable.
Us up. Yeah.
The Sho kings ruled the Ryukyu Kingdom from the early 15th century through 1879. What really set the Ryukyu Kingdom apart was that they had no active forces and got by with trade and statesmanship alone. They were big traders, and they traded a lot, and they got by on a lot of diplomacy. And because they were on a major trade route, they were often a stopover for people. For nearly 200 years, the Ryukyu Kingdom would thrive as a key player in maritime trade with Southeast and East Asia. Central to the kingdom's maritime activities was the continuation of the tributary relationships with the Ming Dynasty China, which began by... so there were three... At one point in the Ryukyu Kingdom, there were like three different kind of kingdoms, and one of them was Chuzan. And so they began this relationship in 1372. It was enjoyed by the three Okinawan kingdoms which followed. And China provided ships for Ryukyu's maritime trade activities, allowed a limited number of Ryukyuans to study at the Imperial Academy in Beijing, which is a big deal, and formally recognized the authority of the King of Chuzan, allowing the kingdom to trade formally at Ming ports. Ryukyuan ships, often provided by China, traded at ports throughout the region, which included, among others, China, Vietnam, Japan, Java, Korea, Siam, and Sumatra. Around 1590, Toyotomi Hideyoshi asked Ryukyu Kingdom to aid in his campaign to conquer Korea. If successful, Hideyoshi intended to then move against China.
Very cool.
Yeah.
If successful.
Yeah, right. So in 1591, the Ryukyu Kingdom, instead of supplying troops, was asked to supply 10 months' worth of rations for 7,000 troops. As Ryukyu Kingdom was a tributary state of the Ming Dynasty, they didn't want to upset China.
Sure.
King Shonei supplied only half of the demanded amount in 1593. That did not go over well with the shogunate. Following Hideyoshi's death in 1598 and Tokugawa Ieyasu's subsequent rise to power, Shonei was asked by Satsuma to formally submit to the new shogunate, a request which was ignored. And the area of Satsuma is what's now Kagoshima in Kyushu. And the Shimazu family, who were feudal lords of the Satsuma domain, present-day Kagoshima Prefecture, were identified as one of the Tozama or outsider daimyo families. Tozama daimyo were classified in the Tokugawa shogunate as daimyo who became hereditary vassals of the Tokugawa after the Battle of Sekigahara. Shimazu had always thought of the Ryukyu Islands as theirs, even though they had no real claim to them. So they just kind of were like, yeah, those islands over there, those belong to us, you know? And this Battle of Sekigahara was a really big deal because it basically made people, the daimyo were either insider daimyo or outsider daimyo. That seemed to be like the real turning point for that.
Right, but it also was like Ieyasu Tokugawa's like big victory that basically solidified his control over
the rest of the daimyo.
Nobunaga took everything over, and Toyotomi, was the figurehead after he died, and then we didn't know if it was going to be him or Tokugawa, and Tokugawa solidified his control at the Battle of Sekigahara.
Yeah, right. But the Shimazu were this clan that they were really highly thought of, even though they were an outsider clan, which is kind of interesting. The Shimazu had done well during the Warring States period, but had also endured many setbacks, including the loss of many samurai in Korea and their defeat at the Battle of Sekigahara. The Shimazu were chomping at the bit to go after any opportunity that came their way. The Ryukyu Islands were a promising prospect.
Now, I should point out, this is 1600, so technically this is the 17th century.
That's true.
Yeah.
It is technically the 17th century. So there have been many reasons that have been speculated as to why Tokugawa gave the Shimazu clan approval. Some have speculated that it was due to years being slighted by the Ryukyu Kingdom and them not submitting. Others have surmised that the Japanese wanted to reestablish trade with China, which could be done if they gained control of the Ryukyu Kingdom. Those who wanted to trade with China during this time needed to give their humble submission to China in order for the country to legitimize their trade.
They were excited about that.
No, and become a vassal state, which they did not want to do. They had no desire to do that. So this route just wasn't an option. Another possible reason, Japan wanted to create a buffer zone between it and mainland Asia, making it more difficult for Christian missionaries to have a foothold in Japan. So I think that's a possibility too. Honestly.
We need a Christian scarecrow.
Right, exactly.
Put a big guy up on a big cross on the island. They sail up, they're like, whoa, okay, got it here.
I'm just going to back right up.
Yeah. Or like one of those like car dealership
the wiggly guys. Yeah.
I just invented the wiggly guy crucifix. We need to delete this right now.
I know.
We need to bury this.
Oh, nobody must hear of this. The subsequent invasion took place in 1609. Approximately 100 ships carrying roughly 3,000 soldiers concentrated at Yamakawa Harbor on March 1st, 1609. In addition to the samurai, 2,000 laborers and 3,000 sailors were also part of the expedition.
Oh.
Of the samurai, around 800 were armed with the Archibus.
Archibus?
Yeah, the Archibus Gun, which is a long gun that appeared in Europe and the Ottoman Empire during the 15th century. And
it's like a black powder gun.
Yeah. And I'm assuming they got it from the Dutch. And
were they made of wood?
Yeah.
I mean, parts. Yeah,
parts of it.
The whole gun's wood.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Blue and white.
Blue and white.
Yeah, like Dutch.
Oh,
like
the way it's painted. Okay. Sorry,
right.
I didn't get it.
I'll just shut up.
Anyways, the other samurai were armed with bows, swords, or spears. The island of Okinawa appeared to be well prepared to deal with an offensive. A system of stone castles, which was pronounced Gusuku in the Ryukyuan language, stretched some 40 miles north to south from Najikin to the palace in Shuri. Many lesser ramparts were scattered on the island's many steep hills, with major defenses at Katsuren and Nakagusuku, the largest one of all at Urasoe. As strong as the defenses were, the army protecting the Ryukyu Kingdom was drastically subservient to the experienced samurai force headed their way. Ryukyuans had not fought a major crusade on their homeland in over 2 centuries. So they were woefully unprepared. Occupation occurred fairly quickly, with some fierce fighting, and King Shonei was taken prisoner to Kagoshima and later to Edo. To avoid giving the Qing dynasty, which was China's dynasty that followed the Ming dynasty, any reason for military action against Japan, the king was released 2 years later, and the Ryukyu Kingdom regained a degree of autonomy. However, the Satsuma domain seized control over some territory of the Ryukyu Kingdom, notably the Amami Oshima Island group, which was incorporated into the Satsuma domain and remains a part of Kagoshima Prefecture, not Okinawa Prefecture. The Satsuma domain, with the blessing of the Tokugawa shogunate, used the trade relations of the kingdoms to continue to maintain trade relations with China. Considering that Japan had previously severed ties with most European countries except the Dutch, such trade relations provide especially crucial to both the Tokugawa shogunate and the Satsuma domain, which would use the power and influence gained in this way to help overthrow the shogunate in 1860s. So it kind of comes back to burn the shogunate in the butt, but who would have thought, letting this lesser clan do this would give them some power and prestige.
Yeah,
but,
right. Well, it was a different time.
It was.
We were all high off of the win at Sekigahara.
Right. Maybe that was part of it.
Ask him now. He's happy.
Yeah, right. Exactly. The Ryukyuan king was a vassal of the Satsuma daimyo, but the kingdom was not considered as a part of any Han until the formal annexation of the islands and abolition of the kingdom in 1879. The Ryukyus were not truly considered to be a part of Japan. Though technically under the control of Satsuma, Ryukyu was given great degrees of autonomy to best serve the interests of the Satsuma daimyo and those of the shogunate in trading with China. Since Japan had no formal diplomatic relations with China, it was essential that China did not realize that Ryukyu was controlled by Japan. Satsuma and the shogunate were obliged to be mostly hands-off in terms of not visibly or forcibly occupying Ryukyu or controlling the policies and laws there. The situation benefited all three, the Ryukyu royal government, the Satsuma daimyo, and the shogunate, to make Ryukyu seem as much a distinctive and foreign country as possible. Japanese were prohibited from visiting Ryukyu without the shogun's permission, and the Ryukyuans were forbidden from adopting Japanese names, clothes, or customs. They were forbidden from divulging their knowledge of the Japanese language during their trips to Edo, and the Shimazu family gained great prestige by putting on a show of parading the king, officials, and other people of the Ryukyu to and through Edo. So they did very well for themselves. The Meiji government abolished the Ryukyu Kingdom in 1879, and they were officially incorporated into Japan as Okinawa Prefecture at that time. So, Prince Suguru Sho, King Shonei's descendant, does not live a princely existence in present-day Japan. He owns a bar in Tokyo and a Zen restaurant that is down the street from Japan's Imperial Palace. Many do not know that he is a royal descendant. So I thought that was pretty interesting. And I guess just a side note off of that, the last king of the Ryukyu was forced to relocate to Tokyo after it was incorporated into Okinawa Prefecture, and they were given a compensation of Kazoku rank as Marquis Shotai. So a lot of the descendants of the Sho royal family live in Tokyo now, and they don't necessarily live royal lives
in a nice 3-bedroom.
Yeah, right.
So a little different.
Yeah,
than it used to be.
A little different
when we were wearing all those grass woven garments.
I know. So at some point, like also in their history, it might have happened right at when the Japanese took over, but they were forbidden from having any weapons, and like they took the weapons away from the samurai at one point too. But I think it happened in the Ryukyu Islands earlier than that, and so something that many have speculated is kind of happened as a result of that is a lot of martial arts were developed in Okinawa, and most notably karate is from Okinawa, is from the Ryukyu Islands. So its origins are technically from the Ryukyu Islands, not Japan. It's
Japan if you ask me.
Now.
Yeah.
It's Japan now.
Oh no, that's Japan.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, and a lot of the weapons that we think of, ninja or Japanese fighters, having are based on our agricultural tools. So like the nunchaku,
yes,
or like a tool for beating rice grains,
right.
The kama is a sickle, it's just a sickle for. Now the throwing stars, okay, if I see a farmer with a throwing star, I'm like, okay, come on, what's this? Come on, what is this? Oh, it's for scaring chickens.
Right. He's what is the tool called where you're grinding up the earth? And it's like a bunch of metal spikes.
A tiller?
Yeah, it's like his stars come out of the tiller.
Right. I see the hole in the middle. You put a stick through it.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that works.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, meet me here tonight. We'll take all these tillers and yeah. Yeah, like karate means like hand, doesn't it?
It means open hand. Empty hand.
Empty hand. So you're just like, hey, what are you doing? It's like, empty hand. I don't have a weapon.
Yeah. And I guess it's something that like it developed from martial arts that came over from China. Mm-hmm. And they, when they Japaneseified it more, they
You said it.
Yeah, I did. They, gave it kanji that seemed to work for them. Like it always meant hand, but I think they made it mean empty hand, and it was still pronounced the same way, but the meaning changed slightly. Just so slightly.
You got a crazy language, guys.
Yeah. So, anyways.
Yeah, the idea, it's just so interesting because I think the Ainu have not got enough, but have pretty good publicists. I think people know about that, but people don't. It's a little different because the Ainu, I think, have an identity as a people. Obviously, like the Native Americans, there wasn't like just one Ainu. That's become a sort of blanket term, like Native American for different tribes.
Right.
But I think they have more of a. They've worked very hard to establish, a racial identity.
Yes.
As the Ainu, and it's not quite the same. Like I
would
think in the
agree.
Southern Islands,
Yes,
there are definitely people, Southern Islanders who have pride in who they are, but they don't have that same sort of identity. I don't think, or at least it's definitely not recognized, by Japan. But when we went to that textiles exhibit, it was just so interesting to see. Not only on the main islands, how they sort of made textiles, but the materials that they had in the Southern Islands, which was to say nothing.
Yeah.
So they had banana leaves.
Yes.
And the bananas were not, cultivars. They weren't like made to eat. Like you couldn't eat these. I mean, you could, you wouldn't enjoy it.
Right.
They were
didn't
grown
taste very good.
just for the fronds, which were then drawn into thread, which were woven, into fabric or material. And so you just see like these very light garments because, of course,
it was
Japan
much lighter
covers
weight.
a lot of latitude.
Yeah.
And so it's very warm and tropical.
It's very tropical in the Ryukyu.
And then and there's like a certain color that only the royal family can wear. And then all the prints and stuff are like based off of sea things and fish and stuff like that because it's important to them. But I'm like, yeah, but you can imagine imagine dragons. Don't you want a dragon on your shirt?
Right.
The king comes by and he's got a bunch of mussels and crabs on his shirt. And it's like, you're like the mayor in Jaws. Yeah, I said it. I'm the mayor of a seaside town. So, of course, my blazer has anchors on it. It's like, come have some imagination. Just think about what that Kraken's going to do to those kids if you don't close those beaches.
Right.
Ryukyu Kingdom.
I think I've heard somewhere too that the people who live in Okinawa have the longest life expectancy of pretty much anybody in the world. And a lot of people believe it's because of their diet, because they eat a lot of fish, like a lot.
If you stay away from the blue ring octopus, though.
Yeah, right. Of course.
That's a two-stepper.
That's a two-stepper?
That thing gets you. Yeah, they're very venomous.
Ugh.
One of my science teachers in high school was stationed in Okinawa when he was in the army, and so he had a lot of stories that he probably shouldn't have told us.
Oh boy.
About his wild times there. But he saw a guy get bitten by a blue ring octopus once. It's
that's terrifying.
Bad bombing.
The one other thing I can think of off the top of my head for Okinawa is the actress who plays Makoto in PGSM is originally from Okinawa, and she's very proud to be from Okinawa Prefecture, and that is a big part of who she is. I think a lot of people have a lot of pride for being from Okinawa and would say that they're, from Okinawa first instead of Japan. So.
They're owning it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a Southern barbarian. That's right.
That's right.
Nanban pride.
What of it?
Yeah, definitely.
Itadakimasu with Usagi. What did Usagi eat in this episode? We have no time for food. And she did not eat Uranus's boot, so thank goodness for that.
Yeah, we'll skip that.
Yeah, we'll skip that. Villain gauge, where we rate a baddie 1 to 5 dark stars, 5 being the most wicked. No villains in this episode. In fact, this is the only episode of Sailor Moon S in which no villains appear.
Well, villains is a relative term, but
it is.
There are definitely antagonists.
Yeah.
But yeah, there are no villains.
Yeah, that's right.
Unless we rate Baby Hotaru. Costume design, a little weak. Just all white.
Liked her
thing
eyes,
needs a diaper.
though.
Come on. Have some self-control, monster.
Oh my gosh.
I have two dark stars.
The way she drank that bottle. Come on.
Yeah, right.
Subu or Dubu, where we talk about the most interesting differences between the sub and the dub. In the dub, the hospital scene, the announcer asked for Dr. Sonsky to pediatrics, and this could be a reference to Janice Sonsky, the executive producer and script consultant for the season.
Oh, huh.
This episode was rewritten a lot and contains a lot of dialogue where there was dramatic silence in the original script. So that's not great.
They covered up the silence with
they did.
Extraneous dialogue?
You got it.
Okay.
In the dub, Luna says to Rini, "What's up, girl?" I just have to roll my eyes at the terrible dialogue. In the dub, Sailor Pluto says to Rini, "Hotaru had two very evil personas, Mistress Nine, the Heart Snatcher's leader, and Sailor Saturn, the Dark Sailor Scout." Excuse me, Sailor Saturn is not the Dark Sailor Scout. She isn't evil, she just is the sentry of destruction and rebirth. There's a difference.
Dark Sailor Scout?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't like it.
I wouldn't even know what to say since we haven't really been tracking. I'm sure there's been a lot of changes about the very nature of we're not cool with demon possession on Cartoon Network, are we? I mean, like,
I don't know.
What did they rewrite it to even be?
She was possessed.
Oh, well, I mean, look, I would definitely describe her as a Dark Sailor Scout. I think that's accurate. I guess I don't know exactly what they are implying.
I just don't.
What they think that means.
I don't like the implication.
You said that word implication a couple of times.
That she's evil is the way that it seems to be implied to me. So I don't appreciate that.
Well, she was.
As a Sailor Scout?
Oh, well, no.
Right. So they called her the Dark Sailor Scout.
She's okay, but what's dark? I guess it's not. We're using English here.
Yeah.
But even English, dark as a descriptor is charged. But it's also nebulous.
Mm-hmm.
There, that's a better word than dark. How about the nebulous Sailor Scout?
That's much better.
Because she doesn't roll with the team. She doesn't know she's a Sailor Scout necessarily. And she's kind of like a nuclear option. Like
she is a nuclear option. You're absolutely right.
She's like she wouldn't stop purse snatchers.
Right.
She would blow up the planet.
Right.
Stop, evildoers. Well, I stopped all crime everywhere. Technically, you're welcome. So I don't got a problem with it.
Okay.
But you think that it is derogatory.
I do. I don't like it.
I don't think everybody agrees with you.
Okay, fine.
I
Not
can't.
everybody has to.
Whoa.
In the dub, Serena says, "I know that composter song anywhere. What the hell is a composter? And Usagi isn't this dumb to use made-up words."
A composter?
A composter.
Like a composter? I know that they're
Like,
always taking their coffee grounds and...
I thought it was like composer because it's like song.
Yeah, it's probably supposed to be composer. But, if you see a bad guy with some coffee grounds and banana peels, you know what's going on.
In the dub, Serena says, "I don't want you guys to fight on account of me. It's freaking me. What is up with this awful dialogue?"
I don't know.
It's terrible.
You guys like this show.
I know.
I'm just a noob.
But...
You guys 20 years later, you guys are like, yeah, I remember good times. Freaking good times.
But, I mean, I knew that the dialogue was kind of bad, but, like, it was, like, what we had,
I can't guess it, but you still have it.
Yeah, I guess. In the dub, Lita says to Serena, "Are you going to let them talk this trash talk to you?" And Serena... Yeah.
You're going to let them trash you with this talk from their trash mouths and the trash talk?
And Serena responds, "Well, one man's trash is another's treasure, and right now I cherish what they're saying." You aren't making sense, Serena.
You took $1 and made 20 cents out of it.
I know.
Yeah.
In the dub, Sailor Moon says to Uranus while she's being attacked, "Whoa, stop it. I like my nose where it is."
Yep.
In the dub, Sailor Moon says, "I am your princess.
But you are my queen, sorry.
I am ruler of the Moon Kingdom." And I just think that this is out of character for Usagi to say. I don't think that she would flaunt her status to people.
Yeah.
I just don't think that she would do that. So that's why I don't like that.
I'm not convinced that she understands her status still.
Yeah. I do have one bit of trivia for this episode. This episode is the last time that Sailor Mars transformed with Mars Star Power makeup. So she transforms with something else. Moving on.
Okay, looking forward to that.
Yep. And now we're up to our rating. I like that Michiru, half kidding, says that it might be nice to live the peaceful life as a family of 3, and Haruka kind of freaks out for like a split second.
Yeah.
I like that Pluto makes an appearance to Chibiusa, but I'm sad that she says that she no longer exists in this world. I think that Pluto gets a little bit of a raw deal. I like that Chibiusa gets to meet Hotaru again, even if Hotaru is a baby. It's a sweet scene. I like when Mako says, quote, they're what we thought they were when we first met, incorrigible hardheads.
Yeah.
And I like that Venus says, we bear you no malice, but we can't forgive you for criticizing Usagi. There's some good lines in this. I honestly don't like that Haruka and Michiru pick a fight with Usagi at the end. I said that before. I mean, do we really need to have them do a fight at this late stage in a series? So that's what I don't like. I do like that we get a little bit of a resolution and following action, though. I think that that's really nice. But I don't think that this episode holds together as well as some of the more recent episodes. But I do think a lot of really important things happen. So I'm going to give it 3 out of 5 roses.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm going to give it 4.
Okay.
For the 1 rating we're giving this episode. Nobody got lovely, nothing.
I know.
And but that's okay. We know that we're winding down. And I think as far as winding down goes, this wasn't the best winding down episode, but I think a winding down episode is tough. I'd say winding down more is tough to land.
Yeah.
And I think that this does it pretty well. And if you're going to have a well, it's arguable which is the A story and which is the B story. They're co-A stories. If you're going to have a second story and it involves 2 characters, that we want to remind everybody, what the core of the characters is.
Right.
I get why they did it. Like, I don't have a problem with it. Although I also don't believe the whole point of character growth is that they would maybe say, 25 weeks ago, I would have kicked your ass, Sailor Moon, but instead put her there. If there was some kind of evidence of a change. I believe that they've changed, and I believe that they are like better people for having met Usagi Tsukino. But yeah, it is a little weird that we have to do a comic book. The heroes are going to fight fake out type thing. This is what you would put on the cover of the Sailor Moon comic of this episode. This episode.
Exactly.
Neptune and Uranus versus Moon.
Right.
But then you get in there and there's they don't actually really fight. There's just somebody maybe glares at somebody else and that's it. But despite all that, everything else is fantastic. It is stuff that we have not seen before, believe it or not. I've never seen a kid run up a hill and meet their future other mom's ghost at the top of the hill. What am I even talking about?
I know.
It just sounds like I've had a stroke. While clocks are flying all around. Do you smell toast? But but to have that and to what's the end of a child's arc going to be? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, what is it going to be exactly? And to have it be her have to have this tragedy of losing this figure, which if we're doing a hero's journey thing, that's what happens. The mentor, Obi-Wan, dies, the mentor moves on and the person is left. Mm-hmm. And then having that happen and then having her also meet her friend again, which is also slightly tragic because she can't really be her friend in the same way, but then have hope, for the future that she'll see her again. And having a 6-year-old have to process all that is
it's a lot.
That's, yeah. But I mean, it's cool. And Chibi has that it makes sense. She has that same quality that Usagi does, which is 90% of the time she's, running around with her hair on fire, but they absorb these lessons, and you have to believe that they are internalizing them and becoming better people because of them.
Yeah.
And that happens to both Chibi and Usagi in this episode in major ways. And then just having, I know we've already kind of seen it, but having Haruka and Michiru drive off at the end. Maybe drop a line in about like, have you thought about adoption? Or, just something like that. But just knowing that, I don't know where they're going, but I'm sure it's also to a better future as well. So yeah, I mean, I don't know what could have made this a 5. Maybe filling out the final, giving more of a reason for the fight or making it less about tricking us into thinking that they were really going to kill her or something, but it's actually a test. It's a little cheap.
Yeah.
But like I said, I understand why they set it up that way. So yeah, no, it's a 4 for sure.
All right.
Strong to very strong.
My English title is Stars Align, New Pathways.
Nice. Very fitting. Very good. As we close in on the end of my me titles for this season, and I guess we'll try something else next season, we had to get something that was another song title. And there's a lot of choices. There's more songs that have Saturday in the title than you'd think. But I wanted to use Saturday because Saturday, of course, Sailor Saturn. And this episode is sort of dedicated to her. So I think the best way to go is with the classic Chicago tune, Saturn's Day in the Park.
Aww.
I think I just became a baby. I think it was the 4th of July.
Next episode, we are talking about episode number 127, Senshi no Jikaku, Tsuyosa wa Pyoa no Kokoro no Naka ni, in Japanese, a guardian's realization. Strength lies within a pure heart, the English translation, and the English title, Tough Kindness.
Tough Kindness is a better title than House Cleaning, because I kind of feel like that's what it's going to be from that description.
Yeah, right.
Another Peter Jackson ending. But I got to say, I mentioned sitting in it before, and I'm still sitting in it.
I know.
And I don't want it to end, so I'm probably going to give it a 5 no matter what happens. But I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to
Wrapping
it too.
up S, looking like Usagi and her friends towards the future. We will be moving into the future when we talk about the film, of course, the Sailor Moon S film, and moving on to the next season. But that's all in our future still. Hey, in your present, why not check us out on social media? We're always posting things on the social media.
We
the
are.
Instagram, the Facebook, the Twitter, all of the places. Go and find us there. And also join our Discord, because we always have a good time. I need somebody to talk about the Rings of Power with.
Yeah,
Okay.
I know what you mean. Yep.
We talk about it all the time.
We do.
And we should stop. We should ban, like the ban of the Valar, we should ban talking about it.
No more talking.
And just type it so we can put our conversations online and people
Okay.
can join in.
Okay.
Because I know people
can
have
do that.
feelings about the Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power series, but I want to hear them. And you can give those to us on our Discord. So join us, link in the show notes. And if you've liked what you've heard here tonight or today, or on the Terminator between light and dark on the moon, I don't know where you are, why not support the show by going to our Patreon at patreon.com/Sailor Noob and becoming a Senshi of the show today, getting access to our other podcasts, several other podcasts which are there, also outtakes from the show and extra special stuff. Go do that if you want to support us, patreon.com/Sailor Noob. If that's too rich for your blood and you want to say, hey, you're doing a great job, why not go to ko-fi.com/Just Enough Trope. That's our parent network. If you feel like you want to give us a little something and say, nice job, hope the lights stay on, that's how you do it. ko-fi.com/Just Enough Trope.
Well, that's our show for this week, and the Name of the Moon will be punishing you next week with another episode of Sailor Noob.
You got Lucy, bitch!